Welcome back to Dr. Jim Unleashed. Today, I want to tell a personal story. I want to tell a personal story of how I really first asked Holy Spirit to move within me in a very, very high pressure business situation. In fact, today, I entitled this Unleashed, Holy Spirit Amid Tragedies. This morning, I'm recording this in my home office. And my home state of Florida, I live in the panhandle of Florida, the city where Brenda and I, my wife, met, lived for the first 7 years of our life, Indian Rocks Beach, Florida, between St. Petersburg Beach and to the North Clearwater Beach, right there in the greater Tampa area, is in the midst of just a day and a half away from a major hurricane. Just 2 weeks ago, we were hit by another hurricane here up in the Panhandle area. And as I speak, just celebrated the 1 year anniversary, not celebrated, but remembered the 1 year anniversary of the invasion in Israel. Here in our country, we face several tragedies. I'm not going to go up and down about those, but it just seemed good to me to share with you a personal story. This Unleashed may be a little bit longer, but if you like stories, you'll like this episode of Dr. Jim Unleashed. This happened on 9/11/2001. I was flying to Killington, Vermont, central Vermont, to speak to then the very first meeting ever of the Vermont Human Resources Association meeting. We had a full day conference. I was the second keynote speaker, probably speaking on getting employees to fall in love with the company, how to create a high performance culture and retain top talent. That's what I did for many, many, many years in business and on the keynote stage and the advising stage. Flew into Boston Logan on 9/10, drove to Killington. Conference began. First speaker, don't remember who it was. Then we took a break. And in the middle of the break, 9 a.m., 9:15 a.m., Eastern Standard Time on 9/11, huge carts were being rolled out in this conference center, and that's what happened in those days. You had TVs on, like the carts were 5 feet tall with 2 or 3 levels. You put the VCRs in there, or the Betamax, or whatever you had for training sessions. You strapped a huge, heavy TV on top and rolled those out into the hallways, plugged them in, and then boom, we saw the first building burning. Now, here's the situation, friends. Many of the people in Killington, Vermont, it's only a couple hundred miles from New York. Of the couple hundred, 300 people in the audience, many had brothers, sisters, even moms and dads, friends, cousins, workmates, neighbors that were living in Manhattan. And in fact, several examples in that one audience of friends, neighbors, relatives, literally working in the Twin Towers. This hit home hard. At that break, the conference managers got together and they were deciding, do we continue with the conference or do we stop? Only had one speaker into it, a full day of teaching, of training, of coaching. The conference managers decided to continue. And I remember the lady, she ran up to me, said, Jim, we decided to continue. You're on. And I could see in her eyes not only the fear, the trepidation. None of us knew at that time, just like you, if you were around then. We had no idea what was happening, what was to happen later that day and the following days. At that time, I was not filled with the Spirit, a Holy Spirit in its full power. I was saved, good Christian, doing good Christian things, fantastic conservative Christian church. I attended, taught Bible study, taught a Sunday morning, what we called Sunday school. But I had never really, up to 2001, ever asked the Spirit of God to move within me in a business situation. This was a high-pressure situation for a lot of reasons. Number one, when a Southern guy like me with a little bit of an accent would go to New England, and I spoke many, many times in New York, Boston, all over the Northeast, anywhere north of the Ohio River, and even in Western U.S., anybody with a Southern accent was already considered not as bright as others. I knew that. It's subtle, but it was there. And so here's a Southern guy they'd never seen before standing up in the midst of who knows what. And I reached in my spirit, in my heart. I only had like a minute. Hey, we're going to get started. We're calling them back in. You're on, go. And you could tell she was saying, do something good, do something to break this. Needless to say, even at that time until today, Central Vermont is not a hotbed of Christianity, and particularly those that are moved by the Spirit of God. I didn't know what to say. I had no idea, had no clue how I was going to transition from what we were witnessing amidst this we knew growing tragedy. Had no idea the severity of the consequences that were to follow. And so I cried out to God in my, just quietly within my spirit. First time I ever did this, I cried out to God, Jesus, I have no idea what to say. You got to say something. You've got to say something. Walked on stage, grabbed the mic, and I could literally sense the uncertainty, the fear. There was literally an atmosphere of fear across the entire room. And of course, across all of America, there was. To this day, I cannot tell you the words that came out of my mouth. I have no idea. I knew better, at least I was wise enough then to know not to ask people to pray in public. Will you please bow your head and do it and lead in a traditional conservative Christian prayer? I knew that was not going to bode well. That was not going to shift the atmosphere, or even sense that then. Don't know what I said. There was a time where I invited people to close their eyes, and words came forth I do not remember. But here's what I do remember, and everybody in that room remembered this, that whatever came out, by then the unction, the direction of the Spirit of God, Holy Spirit within me, I did not even know that I could tap into. The atmosphere shifted. You literally felt the audience went, and then I carried on with my speech on how to build a great workforce. I was living Romans 8:26 in real time and didn't even know it. Romans 8:26 in the Amplified Version. I like this version of this verse, Romans 8:26. Remember, we're speaking about how Holy Spirit speaks amid tragedies. The Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit amid tragedies. Romans 8:26. In the same way, the Spirit comes to us and helps us in our weakness. I want to say that again. In the same way, Holy Spirit comes to us and helps us in our weakness. We don't know what prayer to offer or how to offer it as we should. That's exactly where I was on that keynote stage on the morning of 9/11 in Vermont. But Holy Spirit himself knows our need, and at the right time intercedes on our behalf with sighs and groanings too deep for words. That's the Amplified Version of Romans 8:26. Friends, that's exactly what I experienced in real time amid a tragedy. As I'm sitting here and we're looking around the world, we're walking in a time of tragedies. It's all around us. Past hurricanes, current hurricanes coming, wars and rumors of war, invasions, massive influx within our own country. I could go on and on and on. But here's the exciting news for you today. Holy Spirit moves amid tragedy. All you have to do is ask him, and he will intercede for us to the Father. He will groan our groanings and even more. He knows exactly what we need to decree, what we need to speak, what we need to say in the midst of our tragedies. As many of you know, my assignment is to help teach God's people their unfair advantage in business and all the spiritual power that it includes. Part of that spiritual power is inviting Holy Spirit to move for us when we face tragedy in business, in life, wherever it might be. So may this end up being an encouraging word for you. May Holy Spirit today speak life amid your tragedy, whether you're facing it now or into tomorrow. So, Father, on behalf of the power of Holy Spirit that Jesus died to give us, to live out in fullness. I pray. In fact, I prophesy over those listening to this word that they are encouraged, that they are edified, that they are built up, that they are comforted, that your Spirit, Holy Spirit, can move among them to shift the atmosphere and bring peace in the midst of tragedy. May this be an encouragement to you. I have a follow-up to this on the next Dr. Jim Unleashed. There is a part 2. Tune in. You'll see it soon. Thanks for joining me today. I ask you to share this across all your social media and follow me at Dr. Jim Harris across every media channel that we're on. I encourage you to join us. Email me at hello@drjimharris.com if you have a question. If you have something you'd like for me to speak into the future on these short, profound, prophetic, and practical Dr. Jim Unleashed episodes. Thank you for joining us today. Be encouraged and tune into part 2 of Holy Spirit amid tragedies. See you next time.